Good morning, everyone. Hope you all had a great first day here. So it was really exciting to catch all the activity in the main stage. Hopefully, you all had the glimpse of like what we're looking at for the 3 days. So we're going to be talking about programmable network infrastructure as we look at like newer applications and services. Like how does the network scale? How is it dynamic and programmable while trying to provide support for mobility use cases and applications? Because if you look at metaverse and the evolution of applications, there's going to be a lot of proliferation of devices and applications like down the road over the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to be looking at how does the network infrastructure really support that. So we're going to start with a video. This is about a use case that we've been working on the Telecom Infra project. We had like friends from NEC and Deloitte who couldn't make it, but this is going to go talk about one of the use cases that we've incubated in the Telecom Infra project. So can we play the video?
Um dos grandes desafios da saúde pública é o atendimento das comunidades remotas. Nessas regiões, não existem nem equipamentos e nem médicos especializados. Muitas mulheres grávidas da região amazônica não têm um pré-natal adequado. A assistência de pré-natal é de suma importância para proteger a saúde da gestante e do bebê. Realmente, a questão da democratização do acesso à saúde é um dos grandes desafios dos países em desenvolvimento. Com um ultrassom portátil, seria possível realizar atendimento de pré-natal com maior escala. E outro seria mais voltado à eficiência e redução de custos hospitalares. Os equipamentos seriam conectados via 5G a esta sala de controle e as imagens seriam carregadas na nuvem em tempo real. A Deloitte já há algum tempo vem acompanhando a evolução do 5G no mundo, tanto no âmbito da arquitetura, casos e uso e impactos econômicos. Já existe um piloto em funcionamento dentro do HC. O projeto foi concebido de forma a poder avaliar qual o comportamento em redes 5G para as soluções que atualmente funcionam em estruturas de redes corporativas cabeadas e as adaptações necessárias. Este projeto é uma perfeita parceria público-privada, onde temos governo, academia e indústria trabalhando de forma sinérgica e entregando valor para a sociedade. Tecnologia para inovar e entregar valor para a sociedade. Open Care 5G.
Great. So what we saw there is a mobile ultrasound use case using private network, where all these partners got together, not only supporting the network, but also bringing all aspects of data center, edge, to really co-innovate and try to have the use case end-to-end deployed in a healthcare location in Latin America. So this morning we're going to have esteemed set of panelists who will be with me here talking about how is the network evolving and what are the next generation of applications and use cases. So at this point I'd like to invite David Martin from Telefonica, who heads product innovation, as the first panelist. Thanks, David. Thank you. Vivek from Tech Mahindra, who heads product service delivery and innovation. And Louis from NTT Data, who's a partner. Excellent. So I'm going to kick it off with, I guess, question for David to begin with. So how do you see these networks evolving and the applications evolving as well to support some of the newer network initiatives?
So hi, everyone. Thank you to be here. So the way we see it right now is that we've seen a very good example of what the more traditional flavor of private 5G. I think everything started more in sort of mines and isolated places that require connectivity. Then we've seen more or less how this has evolved towards industrial locations, hospitals, and so on. But we believe that there's going to be many different flavors of private networks because many different client segments are going to have different needs. So we have all this on-premise private 5G. Wi-Fi is also going to continue to exist because it's the most used technology as of today for the access. But the way that we think things are going to evolve is to reach new customer segments. There are some capabilities that we think come with the macro public network that we think can be leveraged to provide new flavors of private 5G. And this is basically being able to leverage an infrastructure that already exists, where you don't have to put upfront CapEx. Also, we are able to leverage complete coverage over the whole population. So we believe that private networks on this, built on top of the macro public network, is the next thing that's going to come. And mainly we see it as when you see a plane today, you have a lot of seats in the plane. And today, that plane is our networks, where everyone sits in economy. The way we see it that things are going to evolve is that we need to evolve to generate a sort of business class in this plane for certain applications that require certain capabilities in terms of quality of service, security, where the traffic is ended, and so on. And we believe that enabling through APIs third parties to consume these business class seats on our connectivity is going to be the next thing that we're going to be leveraged for private networks. And to be clear, we see private networks both in B2B for many scenarios that require widespread use cases, but also in B2C or B2B2C, so the metaverse use cases come along.
Great. I mean, it's the first time we've heard about the business class analogy. That's pretty interesting. It's a good way to describe like how these applications are going to emerge and what kind of network requirements are needed. So now turning over to you, Vivek. So as a lead system integrator supporting these network capabilities and the evolution of applications, like how do you see this evolving from your perspective and what changes need to be made?
Thanks, Sri. Good morning, everyone. When you look at private 5G, and compare it with the operators, many aspects that needs to be, really change. If an operator does integration, it may have hundreds of people working on it. It may have a large contract with OEMs or many things. But if you go to an enterprise, it may have one person as CIO. He or she knows everything, whatever it is. So the newer application, how the cost of ownership has to be minimized, how fast we can really roll out the network. Even the NOC, they may not be able to run a network operation center. So the concept of shared NOC is coming. We are working with enterprises. Now, if you take shared NOC, what about the confidentiality? What about the intellectual property protection? So we are trying to achieve both. One is that enterprise gets their IP protection, enterprise gets the shared cost. It's a pretty good challenge to have. And we as system integrator work with operators, work with the enterprises, the OEMs, the innovators, cloud providers, even hyperscalers. To really, it takes a village to mature the network. So speed, agility, and innovation, these three can come together in an exchange-like of environment, and that is where we at Tech Mahindra create, we call it 5G exchange or network function exchange, where we bring competing partners, sometimes competing, sometimes complementing. We interop with each other. Those competitors which will never see each other in a single lab, we bring them together. And we really mature the network at a shared cost for everyone or free for everyone. So that's the role we have to play. Enterprise spending may be a small percentage of it, an operator spending, even if you divide by total revenue that they pay to operators. So it's a challenge. We are working and we'll be there soon.
Great. And in fact, like the part that, being a system integrator, it's a unique position where you could work in a neutral environment where multiple partners can co-innovate and build the capabilities of the network and the applications together. So turning it over to you, Louis. So you've been a key entity data supported Telefonica and initiatives in the past. How do you see this from your standpoint, both the network and the applications?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Yes, I think that from our side, we can support CSP for two angles. First one is from the business and functional point of view. I mean, we, as a system integrator, we've been working with different vertical industries through the years. So that means that we know the business processes, the operation. We can understand the real problems of the vertical industries. We are able to translate these pain points into network requirements or 5G private network requirements. So this is a key point in order to co-create the use cases together with them. I mean, this is about co-creation, collaboration, so it's important to understand the need of the B2B client, okay? The second one is from the technical point of view. I mean, we are very close to the technology. I mean, we are a technological company. We've been through the years creating a lot of IT capabilities regarding technologies as artificial intelligence, computer vision, digital twin, IoT. So we can be a technological company supporting the CSP. In fact, last week we were in Sao Paulo, in Brazil, in the FutureCom. We were presenting some use cases based on these technologies. We were talking about how, for instance, digital twin can accelerate the development of artificial intelligence use cases. So in some cases, the combination of different technologies can enable new use cases, and I think this is a challenge. No, at the end is how combining different technologies you can address a real problem of a vertical industry. So I think that we are very complementary with CSP in order to get together and provide a solution in a simple way. Okay, because at the end it's not about translate the complexity to the final client. Okay, it's about building a solution, combining make application, cloud, network sources, network services, in order to make simple to the client.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue. Louis brought up a good point about digital twinning. So when you look at metaverse applications, that's a very key aspect of how these virtual spaces are being created for people to interact in a different way. So, David, from a Telefonica standpoint, how do you see the next 2 to 3 years in terms of use cases, both from a B2B and a B2C standpoint?
And so what we see today is that, I'll start with after those 3 years. I think it's easier. I think that towards after 2025 to after 2028, we really think that there's going to be many applications that are for the massive public that are going to require specific capabilities. And that's when we speak of everything related to augmented reality. When everyone has augmented reality glasses, those applications are going, following the analogy that was explaining before, are going to need a business seat class inside the network, because they have a different needs than, for example, when we are using WhatsApp or we are using any other application. So towards the future, we think that that's going to be massive, and that's going to be what's going to be driving those more specific capabilities in the network. As we get closer to today, I'll go to the other extreme. Today, what we see that is having a lot of commercial traction is all those dedicated private networks that today are happening in the industry. Those are really accelerating. We are seeing a lot of adoption in our footprint in Latin America, along mines, industry, and so on. And I think that that part is really getting to reality in terms of 5G. So what we think needs to happen from what we have today to what's going to happen when we have those massive B2C use cases, I think we're going to start incubating a lot of the capabilities of private networks on public networks or built in other fashion as we have them today, to reach the mid and long tail of enterprises and new use cases that have new needs. So, for example, any use cases that have massive need for coverage in B2B, and that's in energy, we see a bunch of those use cases, or for retail stores and so on. That's where we think that having the specific capabilities of 5G is going to exist and is going to grow. So we think that more or less we are going to see the success of the existing on-premise 5G networks grow, and as we see the new flavors of private 5G coming into the market.
Great. So when turning it over to you, Vivek. So looking at it purely from a standpoint of all the tooling and systems that need to be in place to support these newer application use cases, what exactly is Tech Mahindra focusing in this specific area to build a platform to get newer use cases in a much faster velocity?
So Tech Mahindra, along with, we are trying to build a larger ecosystem of partnership where we bring application providers, we bring hyperscaler, we bring tool vendors, everyone together, and try to develop a solution, mature a solution that can be afforded by an enterprise. And I see in couple of years, an enterprise buys private 5G as a service. Today we buy broadband, there is a box that comes shipped to us, we open it, connect it, it works, that kind of things. That means there has to be a very well-defined partnership ecosystem that makes the customer, that is enterprise, as a single entity. It's like your broadband. So application vendor, hyperscaler, the cloud provider, software vendors, network function, operators, all of them have to come together. And we have to cut the time, cut the cost of rolling out the network, maintenance, and even operation. That means the enterprise like Starbucks doesn't need to hire 100 people other than one CIO and 5 of its team members. And that's what I see private 5G in a couple of years.
Great. So I guess the same question to you, Luz. Like, how do you see the foundational capabilities that need to be developed and groomed to be ready for getting these applications in place?
Well, I think that it's important also to understand the different deployment scenarios that we are going to see in the deployment of 5G private network. I mean, taking the example of the mining sector that I mentioned, we are now talking with a mining company in Latin America, in Peru, and it's a below ground mine. So it's a very specific use case, using radiant cables connected to a fiber backbone. So we are going to find this kind of confined scenarios in below ground, okay? Or we are going to be in open spaces. We've been working in another innovation project, developing a solution for smart airports to attend the different companies that are living in the airport. Okay, so we are going to see different deployment scenarios. So I think that's one of the important foundation is the optionality. I mean, when it comes to define or to have many options to address the different deployment scenarios that we are going to find. So it's not about having a 5G private network isolated. So it's about flexibility. I mean, so I think that the idea of having convergence between public network, private network, specific scenarios I mentioned before. So it's key to have this flexibility and the ability to have an overarching vision in order to operate this network, to have the capabilities to ingest data coming from these different options of 5G private network. So from our point of view, this optionality and this flexibility is going to be key, okay, for the development.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, because I guess the key theme there is it's going to be a converged network. going forward. It's not, you will have scenarios where it's standalone, that it's pretty much very focused on B2B scenarios, but then you also need to have the flexibility to have ubiquitous connectivity, because connectivity now, it's not just about having some level of speed and latency parameters being addressed, but it's beyond that. You're now going to have less than 30 millisecond applications that's going to be on the network. So the flexibility, the ubiquitous aspect of like having devices not only connected, but then performing or having applications on those devices performing at the optimal level of like KPIs is very, very important there. So talking about the applications and use cases, we're going to see this evolution path from a 2D to a 3D. Because if you look at metaverse, it's all about virtual spaces, and you're going to have this 3D experience from applications on mobile devices, like on iPads and iPhones and et cetera. So turning it over to like some of the use cases that will emerge in this 5 to 10 year range, like between cloud VR, XR rendering on devices such as goggles and et cetera. Like, what would be the top 2 to 3 that each of you would pick, starting with you, David, and then Vivek and Louis, if you can chime in there.
Well, I'm going to cheat in 2 things here. The first one is, I want to really make a comment to what you said before. I completely agree that the key thing here is going to be to integrate together so that the companies don't have to do separate RFPs for connectivity, for access, for core, for edge cloud, and so on. And linking with what Fernando was saying, I think that the key thing is going to be to provide as a service a joint product, which is nearly a platform, which is 5G and Edge. I think that they both have to come together in terms of services towards the company, and then making it extremely simple to integrate specific value-added services on top of this 5G and Edge, because otherwise it's going to be too complex and too costly for enterprises to do this. So that was from the previous question. And the other thing in terms of use cases, I was even going to throw it to you, Sri, because you're in Meta. So in terms of XR, I really want to hear your opinion on where you think that's going.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I touched on it a little bit, as an intro to this. The next 3 to 5 years is all going to be about applications on mobile devices. There'll be like a lot more applications where you have that immersive experience in public venues. Example now, in US, NFL is a big thing. Football is a religion. People, be it college football or be it pro football, there's a lot of experiences being created on mobile devices for the audience, where if you miss like a touchdown, you could pretty much invoke an app on your mobile device, an AR, and pretty much catch the touchdown like you're there, you're right there. So the other experiences are like, the one thing that's going to happen is that folks are not going to be very motivated to carry these big devices like Oculus or AR headsets. The device part is going to have to be like, I would say micro, if at all anything, like miniature devices where the chipset, processing, compute is all on the device, right? That's the evolution path as we see it. So next 3 to 5 years, it's all about newer applications on mobile devices. And then beyond that is going to be this proliferation of devices, the newer generation of devices that's going to come about, which are going to be like AR goggles, smart watches, all of the devices, the wearables, healthcare. We looked at the video before this on mobile ultrasound. Healthcare is where smart watches and adult and elderly care locations where all of the health parameters are being checked by the device, and it's automatically notified to the healthcare professionals, right? So this is kind of the evolution track that we see. Beyond 7 to 10 years, it is going to be those next generation of devices. So the reason why application providers and device providers are getting together is that the ecosystem has a play for everyone. be it device provider, be it application provider, or be it platform providers and integrators. All of these players have to come together in order to provide that immersive experience as far as applications.
So, Sri, a part of it, that what you said, right now, Metaverse, and especially Meta, previously Facebook, is assuming that present generation of development and application that is being developed, assume that the user is a gamer kind of, or anybody who is static sitting on a chair carrying 2 kilo of headgear, and very soon it will transition to a phase where user will be mobile. Now, the moment you talk of mobility, 3 aspects become very important. One is bandwidth, latency, and huge amount of edge compute. Because if you talk of augmented reality, you have to merge physical reality with virtual reality, and that can happen in some edge compute device nearby. Next point of metaverse is that we no more need disparity between uplink and downlink. Metaverse needs probably, maybe uplink is more sometimes, or it is equal. How do you do that? You do not want to waste the complete bandwidth and radio resource, keeping it reserved for a user. You can't do that. That means what is going to be evolved is uplink, downlink speed independently on demand. I may repeat, on demand, these two can be separately demanded by the operator. Now, demand could not, we cannot say demand will be, I log into my account and say set my uplink and downlink speed. It has to be based upon my devices and need. So huge amount of innovation involved, huge amount of collaboration is required, and huge amount, I'll come back to my old topic again. It takes a village to make it, and we will make it. We have started working with various partners like, chip vendor, Meta, ORAN providers, controllers. So we have to have our own lab where we are going to make it metaverse specific, and where we bring all the learnings from everyone. We interop it, we mature the device, share the feedback to each stakeholders, find defects or enhancement, research, innovation, everything is shared across all partners while maintaining their intellectual property. So that's my vision for metaverse.
Excellent. I think it kind of reinforces the point that it needs the ecosystem to come together,
Yes.
to co-innovate and to really build the different pieces of the puzzle, if you will, right? So, Luis, do you have any thoughts on that specific aspect of how all the ecosystem partners need to come together?
Yes, I think this is a challenge, but at the same time an opportunity, because I think that this is about adding value in the value chain. If we look at our past, we've been doing different things, and now is the moment to join forces, to join capabilities. Probably we have a different footprint when it comes to how we've been working in different regions around the world, so we can contribute with the understanding of the operation of the different industries. So I think this is the opportunity to come together and to join forces and add value. Okay. The challenge is how to integrate and how to orchestrate this partner ecosystem. I think it's not easy. It's something that it's not just about motivation and the desire of doing. It's also about to having capabilities. And an important thing is to establish financial and I would say commercial models between us, because sometimes we are not talking about big companies, okay, with a great economical back. We are going to talk about small companies, startups. Probably the business model has to be good both for big companies, but also for small startups, small companies. So it's very important, the economic model, the financial model, in order to be able to maintain the ecosystem. Okay.
Great. So in the TIP solution group, we've so far incubated at least 2 use cases, and now we're going to be starting to develop like on the set of applications, slowly building towards like where we want to be in the next 3 to 5 years. So David, like, can you talk about what's the next, immediate use case that you're looking at for private networks specific to the solution group?
Yeah. So the way we see it today, we really want to emphasize the fact that the trend in terms of infrastructure is bundling together connectivity and compute. I think they have to come as one single service, one single platform when you put use cases on top. And the next thing is we need, in the past, as a telco industry, we've been really focused on the technical part of the solutions of bringing more bandwidth, in general has been more bandwidth. And in the last years, it's been also, latency has also become more important. And to build the next generation of infrastructure platform, which we put together there, the 5G and the compute, I think that we need to really hear the needs of the use cases that will come along. As I said before, so to make sure that in 2028, when AR becomes massive, we are prepared, we need to start working today. So that's something that we are already starting different lines of work with some of the companies that are here to prepare for that future. And in the more immediate future, it's going to be more around more B2B niche B2B use cases that already exploit this sort of capabilities. I think they were summarized well before. In general, the three areas that we think are of high interest to develop new solutions are new experiences at stadiums and events. We have a lot of people in those locations that require specific capabilities and they are highly congested spaces. The next thing is continue building solutions for the current industries in terms of factories and so on that is starting to get commercial traction today. So it's not that we can abandon that ship. That's going to be what's going to fuel growth with a real business in the next years. And the third one is extending the number of verticals where we can take these industrial solutions. Today it's much more very big manufacturing use cases, but we think that the use cases that we need to work, which are remote support and computer vision, I think those are the biggest ones. Being able to take those sort of use cases to companies that are not so big, that, as you said before, can afford to have a CIO and a small technical team, but cannot afford to build everything in-house. So for us, it's building a lot of anticipate metaverse use cases as remote support and computer vision use cases for companies that are not so big. I think that's where the most immediate future, that's going to be where more the innovation is going to be centered, and in parallel work towards the future, which is more the metaverse use cases for the massive public.
Great. So, certainly, David talked about what are the next set of use cases and applications that are of interest. So this is like co-innovation and co-incubation, as we talked about it quite a bit. So part of it is also having additional partners to work as part of the project group or the solution group in trying to build the different parts of the network as well as the application capabilities to bring this to fruition. So certainly, this could be like really thought of as a call for participation from any of the parties interested who are part of the TIP group to also join and be a part of this journey. They'll be great as well. So before we conclude, Vivek and Lewis, do you have any key message to the audience about the networks and applications we've been talking about here?
It takes a village to raise a child.
Okay, excellent.
Collaboration is the key.
Great. Lewis?
Yes, at the end is collaboration and understand the pain points, understand the operation, the requirements, in order to, as I mentioned before, to select the best option to address this challenge. And this also require to accelerate trial developing use cases in order to see different combinations of solution in different planes, in infra, in cloud, in make application. So it's about accelerate and collaborate.
Great. Sorry,
If I
go
may
ahead.
add. See, it is pretty clear to almost everyone, but still I hear some murmur, that private 5G, a third-party operator may compete with the traditional telecom operator. That I don't see the future. Future is very simple. Service offered by a partnership ecosystem where operator is the major component. So that's my message for the operators.
Excellent. So one of the key takeaways, I think we've all gathered here, is that you definitely have a critical component of not a packaged end-to-end solution coming from a single partner. Like that, that is actually like yesterday's world. And when you look at like emerging technologies and applications, you definitely need like all of these partners to build the pieces of the solution. Like even if you look at the supply chain part of it, you have the ability to innovate at a different velocity. Like the theme of disaggregation, which is all about having different components of the solution being like supporting the innovation journey at a different velocity and speed, where you can now bring different parts of it together and then have an end-to-end lifecycle management and an ecosystem which is fully functional. That is actually my key takeaway from the session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the panelists today, David, and Vivek and Louis. This is definitely a very good way to look at how the network is evolving, which is going to be a flexible, interoperable, disaggregated network, and which is what is needed as the foundation for the newer set of applications. So I also want to give David an opportunity for his key message, and then we'll conclude the session. So thanks for all the panelists.
Thank you. So one last message I want to really push forward is we believe that the future of the solutions is going to go from a product perspective in bundling together solutions. For me, that's critical in terms of connectivity and compute. For what we want to work in the next months and years in the project group is centered around leveraging not dedicated physical resources, but logical resources that leverages the public network and the public edge to build the solutions. In terms of go-to-market, that completely changes the business model towards you can offer completely pay-as-you-go business model that really reduces the friction for enterprises to start entering these sorts of projects. And we consider this critical to really take 5G implementation to mid and long tail. And here, to build this here, as we were saying before, we want to really activate the ecosystem, find partners that want to work with us in generating this new flavor of private networks on the public network. We really want to open APIs for anyone that wants to develop on top of our connectivity. Of course, we are also looking for partners that can enable part of the technical foundations in terms of network elements to enable this vision. So anyone that's interested, please join, enter the private 5G group inside TIP. And I think that it's going to be a really exciting journey.
Great, excellent. So thanks for everyone to join the session. Hopefully we've got some good level of excitement on this use cases and what the future holds. At least we'll have some time now to get back to the main stage, which is going to start in a few minutes. So thank you all for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.